clean an AR-15/M4 style rifle. Since it is the most popular type of rifle in America and there's a lot of new gun owners, so I figured this could be helpful. We're not going to do like a super deep clean of every single little crevice and every spring or anything like that, just because in almost every situation that's not going to be necessary. And so I'm just going to do your basic field strip of the gun, and then I'm going to show you what's most important to clean and how to clean it and lubricate it, and then how to put it back together. So with that being said, let's go ahead and field strip it. So since I don't want any like gun cleaning solution or anything like that getting all over my optic, not that it would or should if you're, not making a mess, but since I have a quick detach mount on this optic, I'm just gonna go ahead and take it off because it's a really good mount and I don't have to worry about it losing its zero. I'll do a review on it eventually because it's worth getting. But anyways, that's all it takes to remove. And if my hands are red and all that, it's because I'm in a garage and it's like 80 something degrees and it's hot as heck. One thing that I forgot to mention is that the gun has already been safety checked and it's unloaded. So it's something that you guys want to always do, is pull this back, look in there, and you can even like feel if you really want to double check, but you can visually check that it's empty inside there. So there's no bullets, no magazine, nothing like that. Now let's go ahead and field strip this thing. It's super easy to do with this kind of rifle. We've got 2 pins right here, and I'm just going to push in on those as far as I can, which isn't much, but it doesn't take much. I don't even have much nails right now, but I can get under there and I can pull these 2 pins out, and that's all you need to be able to separate the lower from the upper. So now, as you can see, this line right here, that's where it separates, and there you go. Now we just have to take the bolt carrier group out. So you pull on the charging handle and eventually it'll stop, and when it stops you pull out the bolt carrier group, and then this guy typically just falls out. It's got these little notches on the side, and that's what keeps it from just coming out with the bolt carrier group in there. If you try to pull it out, it won't come out because of those notches. And it's the same reason you can't just put it in like this. You have to kind of go under and work it in, and there you go. Once you remove the bolt carrier group from the rifle, then we just want to get this little retaining pin out. That's what this thing's called. Sometimes you can maybe grab it with your nails, but it's easier if you just use like a small punch. I have a whole set of these punches. It's not too expensive, and so you just grab like the smallest one or one of the smallest ones, and you kind of pull it out. Make sure you hold on to it so you don't lose it. And once we've got that out, the firing pin should just kind of slide out like that, and it's pretty dirty. And then from there, you've got this cam pin, and it does need to be kind of in the back like this, and you just turn it. There you go. And then from there, it should just slide out. So, voila. And so now it's completely field stripped and ready to just clean all the parts. So the first thing you want to do once you have everything separated is you want the carbon and everything on there to start breaking down. And the way you do that is you get all the pieces and you start spraying them down with some kind of cleaning solvent. Right now I'm using this breakthrough clean technology, that's what it's called. So the first thing you want to do before you actually start cleaning things, it'll make it easier and help you actually get it cleaned better, is if you take all the small parts and you spray them with whatever cleaning solvent you're going to use. That way it starts breaking down the carbon and all that, and then you can like clean the lower, which I'll show you in a second if it even needs to be cleaned, and then you can go back to it. But what I've been using is the breakthrough. It's just a cleaning solvent, and the reason I like it is because it doesn't smell like a bunch of strong fumes because it's low toxic or something like that. But anyways, it's just nice. That way the garage that I'm in doesn't smell like fumes and I don't feel like I'm being poisoned or something. This is just my preference, but you can use anything you want. I used to use CLP a lot, and I still use it because I have it, and so I'm not going to just let it go to waste. But anyways, this is what I'm using right now. Let's make some room. And I grabbed a paper plate just so that I can kind of put all the pieces on there, and that way I'm not getting the table or the mat super wet with this. Let's go ahead and start spraying. You probably don't really need to spray this thing that much, but the inside gets a little dirty. But for sure the bolt and all these little pieces, you want to make sure you spray good everywhere. I'm gonna turn this around, spray inside there. I'm gonna go ahead and let that sit, and while it's doing its thing, we're gonna do the same thing to the upper and just spray inside there a little bit. Typically I like to wear some gloves so that my hands aren't getting all greasy and whatnot, but I kind of forgot to put them on. The lower doesn't typically get very dirty just because it's not as close to all the action. The upper has the bolt going back and forth and the explosion and all that. But here it doesn't typically get that dirty, but just because I don't know if I've ever cleaned this lower, you can go ahead and wipe this. You probably want to release the bolt first. Release the hammer, I should say. And so be careful it doesn't slam on you. Kind of want to put your thumb over it and let it go. Got this rag stuck in here. Anyways, then you can kind of like wipe off the surface, kind of wipe it off, and it's a little dirty, but it's not bad. And unless you see just like tons of gunk in there, you don't really have to worry about it. It's a little dusty, but that's about it. Even though I'm not going to clean it, I'll just show you real quick how you would clean the buffer tube if you wanted to. So there's a small pin right here that's kind of holding the buffer tube in place. So you just kind of push that out of the way, and then this thing just pops out. So this is the buffer tube and the spring. All you would do is you could spray it with the same cleaning solvent if you wanted to, and then you just kind of take a rag and wipe it down. And then to put it back in, it's pretty obvious. You just shove it back in there. It doesn't have to go in any particular way. And when you shove it in, it'll just slide right over that pin, and now it's stuck again. Some people like to oil that spring a little bit, but I don't really think it's necessary because when you're using the gun, when you're firing it, that bolt carrier group is sliding in there and coming back out, and that brings oil along with it because you're going to oil the bolt carrier group. I'm going to go ahead and put the lower to the side, and then I can start cleaning this upper. It is pretty dirty. I don't know if you guys can see. It's kind of hard to show you guys. I grabbed a flashlight because I tried to show the camera and it was just too dark in there. But you can see where the bolt face goes right there. It's pretty black and dirty, so you want to make sure you get in there and clean it really well. And then you would clean all along there as well. Now there's a few different tools that I use to clean guns, and there's more than just this, but these are just the ones that I choose to use. This is actually from like a pistol cleaning kit, but it's nice. You can kind of get in there a little bit. Then I've got a brass brush with a big end and a small end, and same thing, just a nylon brush. And then I've got this little, what they call a snake. This is for putting through the barrel because you do need to clean the barrel. And it's mostly cloth, but it has like these parts where it's got little like brass brush pieces. So as you're pulling it through, it's getting cleaned by the cloth, and then it's kind of getting brushed by the brass and then cleaned by cloth. So anyways, it's a nice little tool, makes things really simple and easy. And I actually have another one as well that's actually even simpler because it's just a piece of cloth basically, like a rope, but it's skinny so you can get it through there, and then it gets thicker right here, and that part just kind of gets into the rifling of the barrel and supposedly cleans it. So it works pretty good. I don't know why I said supposedly. It does work well, but I kind of prefer to use this one because it has the little part that's got the brass brushes on there. Okay, so I'm going to use this heavy duty one right here. Now since it is brass, it's not, the metal that you're using to clean it is softer than the metal that it's made of, that the gun's made of. So it's not going to damage your gun or anything because brass is a soft metal. The skinny side is really good for getting into each groove. For down in this part where the bolt carrier group's actually sliding, you could probably just use the nylon brush. I mean, unless you're having trouble cleaning it, nylon brush should be plenty good. Once you think you've broken it up pretty good, then you can use patches, which you can buy. They're just these little square cloth pieces. You can buy them, or you can just make them from like old t-shirts or whatever. This is just an old pack that I've had for a long time. I just buy them because they're not too expensive and there's a lot of them and it lasts a long time. But you want to go ahead and use these to start wiping it out and getting all that carbon out. And you can even use the brush along with it. Okay, I just spent like a good solid 15 minutes cleaning this out really good. So the upper's done. And one more thing I forgot to mention, like I was saying, you could use these little patches with the brush to get in there, but you can do the same thing with a punch pin or whatever if you're trying to get into small grooves in there. So anyways, just be creative and think of what you could use to get into those spaces and clean it out. I'm moving on to all these pieces, and it's pretty self-explanatory, but you basically just want to clean it until you get all this black stuff off and until your patches are no longer looking like this. You want them to start coming off a little bit cleaner. The pin's typically really easy to clean, so I want to make sure that you clean all sides of this part, the top, the bottom, and the whole thing. Cleaned it pretty good with the brush, and I was using the nylon brush, but then I actually had to use the brass one because there was some really hard stuff like right along this part of the bolt. Anyway, so the brass one got it off no problem, but just look out for that. If you've got black stuff on there and it's not coming off with a nylon brush, that thing is nice and clean. And I grabbed some paper towels so I can just put all the clean pieces. Don't forget to give the little retaining pin some love. And even though it's been sitting there with the cleaning solution, feel free to spray some more on there once you go to start cleaning it. Anyway, so the cam pin's looking decent. And some of it's just gonna stay looking black, but as long as you feel like you actually got all the stuff off of there that you could, you know, it's okay if it's a little black, because look, it's not coming off dirty anymore. As you can see, it's coming off, there's nothing coming off. It's nice and clean. Give the charging handle a quick little brush along the inside, maybe a little brush along the outside. I mean, it looks really filthy, but it's not like hard on there. It's all pretty much loose carbon. And once you scrub in there just a little bit, you can take a little patch, and it's actually pretty dirty. But anyway, so take a patch through there, and then you can take another patch and just make sure it's starting to come out cleaner. These last two parts are going to take the most amount of cleaning because they get the dirtiest. Just scrub in all these areas where it slides. You want to try and get inside here and scrub. Both sides here you want to clean really good. You want to try and get inside here and clean where the actual bolt goes. Same thing with this. You want to clean all sides, you know, inside there if you can, for sure here, every little groove. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I did mention that these two parts were going to be the dirtiest, and I scrubbed, I haven't got to that yet, but I scrubbed the bolt carrier group a bunch, and then I sprayed it some more with cleaner, and it's like literally dripping with black. You can see along the bottom of this plate all that black that literally just dripped out of there. So anyways, it's just really dirty. So I've cleaned it a good amount, but I'm not done. It still has some pretty dirty areas, but I just want to show you guys a couple tips. So you can take a patch and kind of run it through here, because that's kind of the only way you can get in there well. Anyways, you can see how dirty it is. So do that a few times. And then another thing that you can do, where the bolt actually goes, if you have a small enough pinky, you can do that. Or once again, go back to the brush and shove it in there with the brush. And you can see how dirty it is. Now that's just kind of like the last little bits of it because I cleaned most of it out. You can do the same thing back here. You can get your finger in there if it's small enough. And I've got pretty small fingers, so it fits. This part, it's pretty simple. We'll just do that. And then here, that little hole that's in there, probably want to use the end of something. Alright, so I've pretty much finished cleaning everything on the bolt carrier group and on the bolt. Now the only thing I wanted to show you guys is sometimes you get these really hard deposits. Let's see, let me get behind the camera and see if you can see that. Even with the brass brush, I couldn't get it off. And so if that's the case, now I have this tool. It's by Leatherman. It's called the Mutt. And it's basically for AR-15s. It has punches and it has all kinds of different parts, screwdrivers and things. But it's got this really nice brass scraper. And it's heavy duty and it's made of brass, like I said, so that way it won't harm the gun. But it's meant for scraping off this stuff. So either get yourself one of these. I mean, these are pretty expensive, but if you can't get yourself one of these, just find another kind of brass scraper online. And I'll try and link whatever I can to the description of this video, whether it's this tool or my cleaning solutions or oil or even something else that maybe I don't own that I think is a good option. Just get something that you can scrape it off with, because sometimes the brass brush just can't get it off no matter how much you try. Alright, so I've cleaned all the parts and now it's just a matter of oiling them. You don't want to put it all together and then oil it because, well, you're just not going to be able to get oil into every single part as well as if you oil it and then put it together. What I've been using to oil the guns is this stuff called Go Juice. And I believe it's made by Geisley, which is a company that's very well known for making like some of the best aftermarket triggers for AR-15s, and they also make like handguards, and I think they're starting to expand to other things. But anyways, it's really good, and I started using it because I saw a lot of good reviews by other YouTubers, and they seem to really like it, and it's non-toxic also, so why not? And even though it's a little bit more expensive than some of the other things, I mean, it's the kind of thing that you're not using that much of, and so it's going to last you a while anyway. So for me, spending a few extra bucks on both of these things that I use isn't really that big of a deal. And by the way, I put it into these little like droppers because they're a lot more precise, and so they're very precise to put like the oil exactly where you want it versus this. You know, that's just how it comes, and it's got a hole on the end, but you can't really get into like certain spots if you need to. And so anyways, these you can buy like in a pack of 2 or more just on Amazon. And I'll put that link in the description for this as well. A little bit on just the inside of the charging handle. And you can use your finger. And since the top of the charging handle is actually going to be sliding the most against the gun, you want to do that as well. Doesn't take much, guys. But you'd rather it be too oiled than not oiled enough, and that goes for all the parts. A gun can run like dirty, but it can't run dry for the most part. So being dirty normally won't cause you as many problems as being dry and not being oiled up. Anyways, I'm just kind of placing it all around, making sure I get it everywhere. Trying to get into the grooves of all the locking lugs. You can put a little bit on the inside here because your bolt is going to be sliding in and out a little bit. And then it'll get oiled up anyways because I oiled the bolt. So once I put that in there, it'll oil it. But I just like to add a little bit and then just put like a couple drops on each side here. And rub that in. Let's see if you can see it, but right there you can see some wear where it's even kind of like rubbed off the finish. But anywhere where you see wear, that means that's where the gun's really sliding a lot, and so you want to put a little bit of extra oil there, or at least make sure that you focus that you got some on there. And same thing underneath. Underneath the bolt carrier group, you can see it's worn down here and along these 2 grooves. I'm also going to place a little bit of oil on the parts on the inside of the upper receiver where I see where the bolt carrier group is sliding, I'm just going to place a couple drops, and then once I put the bolt carrier group in there, it'll slide around. Alright, so I put a couple drops in there. Let's go ahead and reassemble this. Got the bolt carrier group. I'm going to put this in. Now, you can see how the ejector faces one direction. Because the hole in the bolt where this pin goes in is actually like tapered so that one side's slightly bigger than the other. So if you don't have it facing the right way, it won't even let you put it in. So it's really good that they actually do it that way, or else people would be having malfunctions and they wouldn't really know why. And then there you go. It just falls right in. So if it doesn't fall right in with, you know, pretty minimal effort, then you've got it facing the wrong way. Just turn it around. And then once that's in there, it's kind of like rectangular. You have to have it turn and face that direction. And then you can drop your pin, firing pin from the back. And once you do that, you put the retaining pin in. So you can see everything's there. It's working. And nothing's falling out because everything's put in properly. At this point, we're obviously just going to reassemble it the opposite of how we took it apart. You have to go in and find that little hole, and then those notches slide up. You see that? So I'm kind of just putting upward pressure, and then it slides up, and now it's in there. And once you've got it in there, you can put this in. Now, because this little part will get in the way, you have to make sure that this is facing forward. It can't be in the rear position like that. It has to be pulled outward, and then it'll slide in. Otherwise, it kind of hits the receiver there. So once you got that in there, the whole thing goes in. There you go. Remember, we've got those two pins that go in here. So you just want to make sure, they're still sticking out, so you have space to put this on. And then, let's see, how can I do this to show you guys? There we go. So, see how there's still a little bit of space there? I want to make sure that there's no space both this way and this way. Okay, so they should go in fairly easily like that. If not, then you just kind of have to keep working it forward, backwards, and up and down to make sure you line it up right. And there we go. And close that dust cover. And voila! You can always run this back and forth a couple times, which is what I like to do because, like I mentioned earlier, it'll spread the oil around. You can wipe off some extra oil because sometimes after you clean it like that and oil it, you're going to have a little bit of oil that kind of maybe drips out. Well guys, that's it. That's how you disassemble, clean, lubricate, and reassemble a AR-15 or M4 style rifle. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I hope it was helpful. And if you did, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button. It really helps me out. And subscribe if you're not already. That way you can stick around for future content. I do a lot of gun videos and reviews, like backpack reviews and other gear like that as well. So if you're into that, definitely hit the subscribe. And once again, don't forget that I'm going to have all the links in the description down below to a lot of the things that I use to clean guns. That way, if you don't have it already, you can go ahead and get what you need to make your gun cleaning life a lot easier and more enjoyable. But with that being said, guys, I just want to thank you again for watching till the end. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.